Greetings. I don't know when I spoke about this specific thing in the title, he reigns forever or reigns until, but there's a lot of damage and lies being done with this because I mean it's incredible when you start seeing the proper right things and understandings of this scripture or that scripture with belief. And I remember some time back, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago, I started asking and questioning and giving, and it's always been the same thing. They don't want to hear or listen to and the contradiction is actually a good thing. It's for the purpose of bringing something out. But if they accept or acknowledge there is a contradiction, they have to accept everything after it. So they just do not accept it. But we have to face it, because we could read in the translations, he reigns forever, but then in scripture itself, we read he reigns until all enemies are put under his feet. And in reality, there is no such thing as until in any example that I've ever known that means forever at the same time. It's really simply nonsense. And I'm not saying there's contradictions for real, just an appearing of contradictions. But when they're ignored, you run away teaching people a bunch of lies, massive lies even, and some very spiritually backwards, dark things, which will never be said with words in the open to the people. But in reality, the only things we're supposed to be caring about is what does it really mean and what is the heart really saying? What's the real thing here? Is that this world and its kingdoms is, how is it said? This world and its kingdoms, it's implied, it's reduced to, is the example of all enemies under his feet and the example of the kingdom having no end. They give this very sneaky, false reality and definition of his kingdom. There'll be no end. They can't see how that's true while there's an end still. It's pretty amazing. Now, maybe they don't want there to be an end because they don't want an end of being Pharaoh in the kingdom. It's pretty funny, actually. And it's all over his word. It's even in that false book that I brought up before where Pharaoh is saved from the Red Sea. So then you break the blind leader leading the blind and both fall into the Red Sea or ditch or destruction. It's breaking that by teaching Pharaoh is saved, but who cares? It's a pretty big deal to me. That's calling Messiah a liar. It's calling the Father's word, first of all, a lie, and then Messiah a liar, teaching lies, the Father teaching lies, and Proverbs and all the wisdom and all the scriptures and examples that line up with that truth, that whoever is lying, whoever is a king or a leader lying, all his servants become wicked. So it breaks that. It breaks that by saying Pharaoh got saved at the last second. He prayed and an angel saved him. And he lived and reigned as a Pharaoh for a long time afterwards in this book. I mean, this is an incredible amount of contradictions. If anybody out there has love for his truth and cares, and what it says spiritually. I mean, but if someone's carnal, they just don't care. That's just the truth. There's no care yet. So then the question is, how come they don't care and why are they doing what they're doing? Is it because they love truth? Obviously, the works are showing no. It doesn't care when things are brought to it. It's like tunnel vision only, and it doesn't acknowledge scriptures that go against its tradition and whatever it's teaching. And then someone is hasty and think because they don't see what they need to see right away, therefore this or that cannot be true. That's a false way to do things in everything with his word. Instead of waiting for answers, patience, it needs, you can't, if someone's not understanding something, you can't like run around hasty in the mind and heart and then just, oh, I figured it out, found out what I need to find out. um, that's like going, that's like spiritually backwards instead of being rewarded for believing and having patience. But what I've seen that these people that teach this, what they mean is that it's a weird thing. There's no reality to the new heavens and earth. There's no reality to the kingdom of heaven. It's just some doctrine. I just, I hope people are seeing it because it's a nasty thing. Someone seeing this lie. Uh, it's just like if we say these words, therefore it's true, and nothing changed. There's no reality. There's no care. There's no love. Um, but the way the world is now is how it will always be. But all things were fulfilled, past tense, and the end came, past tense, fully. And yet they have this need to what? Make believers. I thought all things were fulfilled and all are under Messiah, all enemies vanquished, all under his feet, which means there's no enemies anymore. But obviously their definition of that and understanding must not be that, must not be good news. It must be evil news. Under his feet is like a real bad thing, evil thing, cruel. It's amazing. Under his feet, I read that the Father's first, then Messiah, and then man is under Messiah, what, his feet, and then woman, and then, what is that, an evil thing? I guess so. I would say that Messiah's people are under his feet right now, and those that are against him are not. But we read and have this belief and faith, which takes faith because it's not seen yet, the full thing, that all will be under his feet. And then because that's true, you can actually say what we read without contradicting and without doing lies and evil, that he will be all in all. No one can say this without that actually being true. He's going to be all in all, but accept most. It's sick. Well, just because the world's evil now and they can't see this reality done right now, have they ever considered the Father does miracles and that it takes to believe in him to see them even now? That they will see his miracles and his signs if they're believing and doing, wanting to do his will, not from not believing at all, waiting for a giant miracle, then they'll believe. That's corruption. He's not going to allow that. But we read in scripture, it's in his word specifically, and they can check all the translations and do all this nonsense. It says reign until. And reign until is like, I will finish my potatoes, I will eat my potatoes until what? I eat it all? Or I'm just going to eat it forever and also say, I'm going to eat my potatoes until, how do I say it? Until he will reign until all enemies are under his feet. So something is happening. And this until is connected to that. I will eat my potatoes until I have ate them all, until it's in my stomach. But that thing can't be true. And you also eat potatoes forever, the same exact way with no end. How is it that someone selling 20 books can't see that? Maybe it's because they're going against the Father and he's made them blind. And it's a punishment to not see something that simple. But it's beyond some simple thing. What they imply and teach and put in people's hearts is destruction, man. It's huge. And they've doing the same thing that the false prophets always done, that we could read, is give them a false peace. Well, their peace is destruction. Don't they read that also? They probably quote it and say, when they say peace, there comes sudden destruction. They might be talking about themselves, but spiritually, when these people do peace, then comes sudden destruction, blinding, death, unbelief, and then they spread this cancer to others. And this is the kingdom of heaven spreading: lies, death, cold, no heart, doesn't care about doing the Father's will or asking him anything. And then it goes on and on. The amount of contradictions that pop up from one lie, I mean, it's immense. It's huge from all angles with scripture, with spiritual things. So then they have to play games. It's just trying to fit the words for their doctrine so that they sound right. But the problem is, when they do this, is that they think they're doing it according to what is logical and makes sense to them, but the Father's blinding them. So what they think, even carnally, is blind so many times. And so if we put the doctrine and words in this place, then it'll be okay. And it walks away and we're like, I'm stunned, eyes wide open, like, wow, there's no care at all, zero. It's just playing games with doctrine, with words, with big things that it's not caring about at all. Now, all I experience virtually every day is enemies of Messiah. And these people are teaching that all have been made under his feet, which means that if the end came, like they have to say, if the end came, what's connected to it? All have been put under his feet. So the end came, all have been under his feet. And yet there's enemies everywhere doing a lot of evil and sin, even self needing to struggle and overcome sin, let alone unbelievers against Messiah, against the creator of the heavens and earth, fighting against his people, the devil sending out a flood constantly, because what I read there is true. It was true yesterday, it's true today, it's going to be true tomorrow. And so then the apostle quotes this scripture. In scripture, he reigns until enemies are put under his feet. And then he's adding some to it, according to that teaching, that then the end comes, which contradicts there being no end to the kingdom the way they teach it. The way they teach it is that it's going to be like this forever. There's no end to their kingdoms. It's literally that backwards. Because what they call good is evil, and evil is good. This is not good. The creator is good. His kingdom is good. But this world and the God of this world, for the vast majority of people, is not what it needs to be. It's no good still. How can't they see that unless they're massively blind and in darkness to say that darkness is good? And so then he says the end comes, and then Messiah will hand over the kingdom, which, is the end is contradicting it. Then he hands over the kingdom, which is contradicting reigning forever as they teach. And he will give it to the creator, the Father himself, and then he will be all in all, almost as if there's no more enemies, and as if there is some kind of end that will lead to these things being utterly fulfilled eventually. And I read ages to come. But apparently those ages to come have already passed. That's what they really teach, but they won't say that with truth and clarity to the people out in the open. The ages to come has already passed. Therefore, there is no ages to come. If that's a lie, it's doing damage already. It doesn't matter what the lie is. If that's a lie, it's destroying people. It doesn't matter what the lie is. If it's a lie, it's doing that. And I found out that, to me, this is one of the bigger ones, because of it attacks everything. Not that a lie doesn't attack everything, but it seems more severe to me. It's like a vicious attack against the Creator and our Messiah and the Father's truth. And so then they fill in the gaps of what's to come. Yeah, this just happened. Yeah. And then they go on. They only said that just to answer the question and get it over with so that they can continue to do what they're doing currently. It's really nasty. It's a real sick heart, but it tries to make itself look good. And I've seen, you could even see it when the Father gives you spiritual discernment. You could see it right through their face that they're angry and hate people. They can't hide it. They cannot hide it. But the people that are believing the false prophet are blind. This is true. They can't see the same thing, that this prophet hates them in his heart, because you cannot use people like that for self-gain and not hate them. That's a law. That's a judgment. It's in his word. It's a teaching for his judgment. He does not bless that, meaning if someone's lying continually like this and that's what they're doing, he hates those destroyed by his lies. I know that it sounds like confusion. That is confusion and contradiction. It's a punishment. It is confusing like that and contradicting because it's a punishment. There's no clarity. There's no truth or love or good. It's supposed to be like that for those in continual sin. It is. They hate the thing and they hate this thing. That's how the reality is. You would think that they would love those people. They can't. They can't, because that would be like blessing lies. You can't lie to people like that forever and be blessed. He has to hate them with the heart, he or she, but always needing to look like the best he can that he cares. That's some serious deception and slavery daily, every minute of every day. And then who knows how many deceptions and lies that there are in this world, the bottomless pit. You can't count them. You can't try to find them all, but it's a nasty thing. It's not seen properly, and it plays these games, and it's a spiritual spell, and it gets into the mind of people because they don't see whatever the real thing is. This thing for them and for someone else, something else makes sense to them, and they can't see anything else. It doesn't realize what the person doesn't realize what they're doing with themselves even. They're not seeking the Creator's truth on these things. It's amazing how that's hidden from this world, from the world. The world's hiding this somehow pretty good until the Creator gives you discernment. You could see that their heart's never doing this. It doesn't care. Because that would be the last thing a carnal person, anybody, Adam, carnal, natural, would want to do, is deny himself. That's the only way someone can seek him, is through repentance, denial, belief. But I'm just saying that's not happening in so many people that make it look like in this world. It's going to be the worst at the end than it ever was. It already is terrible. Speaking of the heart, it's horrible. It's lawless. And it's lying constantly. That is a commandment. You shall not lie. And then they attack and make it sound like his people don't care about anything, or care about the carnal Jews, make it sound like we don't care about the commandments or anything. The only thing we're ever talking about. But it's too bad a blind person can't see that that's the only thing that matters. Is the very thing they can't see is the important thing, and that's what we care about. Of what lying really is, with everything, with every little word and detail and every thought and intention of the heart. That's how important it is. Not carnally, like looking like, oh, I didn't lie today, with some literal worthless understanding. I mean, that's a lie still too. That's no good. But this is a high calling, not looking good. I was like old. It's not good by itself. It never meant that. To overcome lies for real, to overcome murder for real, to overcome adultery for real. And Messiah is saying adultery is in the mind and heart. Adultery is when it thinks in its heart and it's like conceived, and then you do it and fulfill it in the mind and heart. This is one example. He's staying with adultery. It's like this for all the commandments, though. And that these things have to be given to see what it is, to stop doing it, to start overcoming it. Now, anybody that commits literal adultery, obviously they didn't have a clue what adultery really meant or overcame it in the heart, because it requires to break it, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It requires to break, don't commit adultery, to commit adultery. So we see two things here. It requires to break lying, to lie. It requires to break you shall not murder, to murder someone. There's two things to be seen. And it's not just like one thing. It just applies. Murder is a lot deeper than, oh, it's hate, because lying is also murder. But they don't care. They're not seeing that, so it doesn't mean anything. So therefore, actual lying is good. Actual murder and hate is good. It's all man does. Lying to someone is not a loving neighbor as self, because they wouldn't want to be lied to if they knew about it. And lying to someone is not loving them. No one can ever say that in reality. I mean, they could say the words if they're crazy enough, but even the words, like, they couldn't say it. If you ask anybody a question, is lying to someone love? What are they going to say? Yes. It'd probably be more honest if they said yes than the people that say no and that are teaching these monstrous lies. That's how bad it is. And this is the very thing that, we so many times that's what the Father's caring about. This is the truth, that he's discerning the thoughts and hearts. His word is discerning the thoughts and hearts of man, the intentions, thoughts, and hearts, and it's cutting. It's like a sword. It comes and slashes the carnal thing. So it's like a war. When someone hears actual truth, it's fighting them. It's the Father's Spirit just attacking them, and they don't want, so they need to like shut it up, try to destroy it as quick as they can. Because whatever truth is in spirit, it's attacking all the other lies. So if one massive doctrine is exposed, it creates a lot of rage in someone that's like, especially the leader of it, because it's attacking all the other lies. It doesn't matter if they can't see what it is. It's already doing that. Every lie connected to it, it's attacking all of them. But then on the flip side, carnal versus spiritual, it's happening the same way there, where all the lies attack all the truth. It's just already doing it, because his word is all one. It can't be broken. The spirit, in spirit, all things are one and connected and flowing and perfect and good. So then if there's one big lie in this one thing, it's going to attack all the good things already and start doing damage in somebody. That's how I've been given to say it in words, what's happening like inside. But see how the words aren't the understanding, though. It needs to like be seen how this is happening with someone. But that's how the false prophets do their damage. It's just, if they could slip in one massive lie, they got them. If they believe it, swallow it, eat it, and continue in it, they'll be destroyed. In spirit speaking, they'll be wiped like a bowl is wiped, because you can't believe a massive lie, anything, for forever, for too long, before it starts attacking everything that's good. Everything that's, whatever is true and good cannot be connected to that thing. It has to be moralized to fit the other big lie, and then so it's like either a bad tree or it's a good tree. And the bad tree cannot produce good fruit. And man, how much he's shown me that recently, like the last year especially, that the heart just can't do good if it's not from above, from the Father, his Spirit. It's just always doing corruption and evil. But we do read that word forever. We also read about what sounds like judgment forever too. But they don't want to go there. They don't want to look into these things. You can't prove anything to someone that won't want to see it all and look, but it needs to be said anyways, though, because for anyone who's, seeking truth from the Father, I mean, it is proper and good to see and be aware of the lie, because it's being aware of how they trick and destroy people. If we're not aware of it, then you could get tricked and deceived for self, but we have to ask the Father everything. That's the real only way, is if this is true or this is true. It's not going on by false prophets, obviously. There's no teaching that a false prophet is of the Father, is it? Or that a false prophet loves the Father and wants to do his will and keep his commandments. I don't see that anywhere in his word, and it's a pretty big book. I mean, it should be a given, I guess, but I mean, spiritually it's not, because there's a strong blinding. You would think it would be a given, but it's not. With words, sounds like it's obvious and it's a given, but it's not actually a given. That's the amazing thing. So what some of the stuff's so bad. I mean, I've had hard laughs at times, like I couldn't breathe a few times, because some of the things people do and teach, you start seeing the Father's judgments and you're just in awe. And once he gives you to see in clarity and truth something, the lie is like sometimes so bad you can't breathe. It's just true, and maybe that's why I read that he laughs at the wicked, scoffs. Maybe his people will too sometimes. It's like, is the Father sinning by doing this? That's the first question I would ask that hates that scripture. Because I know they can't say that he's sinning. See, they're in slavery constantly. They have to think and go, well, if I say if I say he laughs with the scripture as a sin, then I'm calling God a sinner. And I can't do that. So they have to say no. But their works just shown that they didn't like seeing whatever this reality is. What do you think that means? You think there's no reality to it? So, I'm just saying, for anything it works like that, then only trying to think of the right answer so that it sounds right and looks good, this is not a good way. It's no good. That's not good. Forget that. Always, it's the Pharisees are always trying to sound right, and that's all it is. And so then Messiah asked them, where does this baptism come from? Is it of, however we read it there, John or heaven? And if in their mind, that's why we read it, it's for our benefit. If we say it's like this, they consider him a prophet. We're not going to look good. But if we say it's not of this, then he'll say, why don't we believe? So they said, I don't know. We don't know. Why did they say, I don't know? Oh, this is so powerful to see this, because if this is not seen, someone cannot see how Messiah said, I don't know, without sinning. Pretty big deal, because Messiah said, we can read it, I don't know either. Did he sin? It's a pretty big deal, because it's proving that sometimes you could say something without any intention for sin at all, but it's going to only sound like sin and evil. In fact, that's what it seems to always be with most things, though. But this is like for believers to start seeing and learning these things, because the Father knows the heart, the Spirit testing the Spirit, or the Spirit speaking to the believer, the Father speaking. And so you will know, because we have a conscience, unlike the conscience seared with a hot iron. There's no conscience concerning his truth and real things. So it will just gladly, happily lie if it needs to, or do this or do that, or deceive neighbor, steal his things, key his car, sleep with his woman, whatever it is. Not that there's no judgment or destruction for that, but concerning doing the sin, happy to. See, that's like having a conscience seared with a hot iron. Not the world's definition of a conscience seared. This is a real thing. And they say, I don't know. They answered out of lying and deception. Now, the Father's judgment has been so consistent through his word, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, meaning that if someone's lying, they themselves will be deceived, and it will appear as like the Father's lying to them. But it's a judgment, and it's not the Father actually doing this out of the intention of the heart for lies. If someone robs, they'll get robbed. Simple things here. Or just say even carnally, if someone robs literally, then when the judgment comes back for robbery against them, they shouldn't complain, but they will. They won't like it. But they robbed. So is the Father a robber? No. Now he's punishing the carnal sin. And so then, since all things were handed to Messiah, even everything, like we read, all things given to the Son. So he's speaking here out of this understanding of the Father's judgment. Oh, you lied to me. You're playing games. You don't care about anything. You say, I don't know, because that you have to say, I don't know, not because you care. He saw that they couldn't answer either way without looking bad or looking like they don't know. Not a good thing. So in this case, I don't know was the best answer, but they didn't want to do that, but they had to. So he says, well, I don't know either where it comes from. Oops. How come they never bring these things up in the church world? Maybe because they don't have any understanding or answers for them. And so it's like they have this way of staying away from certain scriptures and never getting on the mind of the people. This is an amazing thing to me. It's like sorcery. And then after some time of seeking out the Father's truth, I don't know how it can't be on their mind. It starts becoming backwards in a good way. But not saying that out of, I do understand why, but like it becomes hard to believe because of changing, going in the other direction. Like, how is it not on their mind? Well, because blind, but still, nevertheless, Messiah marveled. We could read it. Is that a lie? Did he marvel or not? Or did he go, you know what? I'm the Messiah. I'm the Son, the first only begotten now. I have the Father's Spirit. So I do know that what I do will be recorded. Time to put on the act and marvel here so that it looks right. This is sick. This is not what happened. Messiah literally marveled at times, but it's with understanding. But nevertheless, it's marveling at the unbelief. Isn't it that what we read for? The unbelief, I think, or other things. It's not out of pride. It's just that, man, people, where's your faith? There's no faith. Marveling. And John marvels. And this is connected to all his people eventually to start seeing his judgments on the harlot. Come, I'll show you my judgments. And it's like in disbelief and a little worried, concerned, because it's so bad to start seeing this judgment. That's what's going to happen when someone starts seeing his judgment on the harlot more and more. Going to do exactly what John did without failure. Going to do exactly what we read. The disciples had a lot of weak faith times. We'll find out that was us before it wasn't. It was that first. And even with big things, and then even the same thing, doubting, not believing. That's the understanding here. It's like this miracle we did. We're doing it again. Don't you remember? It's that bad. That's what it's teaching. That's what the Father's teaching. Messiah's, we're seeing here. This thing we did, you thought we couldn't do, and now it's coming again, and you act like it never happened. And I can say and testify that it's been no different. A little disappointment, a little bit of humbling, or a lot, that it's had to go exactly like that for self. then those scriptures start having some kind of meaning and value and some belief, more belief in the Father and his word, sovereignty, a little more denial of self, a little more giving up, a little more less trust in the flesh, because he keeps proving it's foolish. Whatever we do from self is stupid. It's going to be wrong, blind, and prideful. But just because we can have some kind of understanding of something, it doesn't mean we have some kind of understanding that the Creator himself does. So how does someone attack something? Here's how they do it. They imply some ungodly thing, like if you don't have the Creator's understanding, as if they do. No one could say that without like having his understanding, way above man. Then what you say can't be true. That's evil. That's protecting something. And it's not even, every attack is stupid. Then that person needs to have the Creator's wisdom in the full, as the Creator himself does, in order to say that. So then if you were to say, like, bring that out, it destroys that whole idea, which destroys the purpose of their attack to defend something, which will make them angry for speaking this truth. But like, if you don't have, you just create your own throne, and then you create your own standard, your own law, your own righteousness and everything. And then if you don't meet what they create out of thin air, well, then this must not be true. You don't understand anything then, because you don't have the Creator's understanding. But they do. And I've seen things done like this. It's bad. Similar things. It might not be exactly like that every time. I'm not saying that. But it's creating like its own. That's not seeking out the Father's things and for whatever is true and right. It's just making things up so it can destroy something it doesn't like. That's not love. That's breaking love. Because that is deception. That's lying. That's hatred. That's deceiving, tricking, playing games, and so many other things. It's all connected to. It's envy. There's some envy mixed in so many times when there's hatred too. It's envying seeing something good that's coming from above in someone, and it's not even our own. My goodness, don't they read that so no one can boast? But now they'll claim the good thing is boasting. It is good to believe and have some kind of confidence or assurance in whatever someone's being given. And then they attack the very thing that's good and needed, that's not coming from self. Then they can't claim with reality that his people are getting this through pride, because it's being given. It's not from self. The people that are understanding denial and self, not understanding anything of self, is his people. That's how they have understanding. So when they attack understanding or anything, they're attacking truth and whatever is good. It is amazing, but not seeing these things. The only way to have understanding is to go get humble, to acknowledge, to ask, to seek the Creator for real, which is humble, and not our own ways, which is humble, and not our own systems, balances, and scales, which is humble. Not seeing that. So it's like, I need to attack, I'm going to attack. Not seeing any of these other things when someone attacks like that. It doesn't mean we'll never make mistakes, but these are the very things we're learning. Is his things, and that's all for him. Messiah was given, even as he's teaching the kingdom of heaven, teaching the disciples, teaching the people. He was given all that understanding. He told them over and over, more times than we read, because whatever we read, even if every little thing was accounted for, every word, it would be a huge book that the world cannot contain. Is that what we read? But we even read it a few times, or many times, that he's, if you don't believe in me, he's saying, believe in the works at least believe in the works and miracles and things. And they just couldn't do it. They needed to attack what's good. It wasn't, it's Messiah having all of this, and yet it's not from himself. They can't see that. Even the Pharisees and everyone else attacking him, not seeing that, and even asking him, basically, are you God? And so Messiah answers directly, as direct as you can, with honesty and clarity for those that see, but speaking for the heart, answering as direct as you can. Unlike mankind, you never know. I mean, he's always answering out of deception and trickery and creating his own thing in his mind. This is hard to say in words, but and creating little categories of justification. These things need to start being destroyed, burned. So then when Messiah is answering, he's answering with clarity and truth and directly to what they're asking, but it doesn't read like that, does it? It kind of sounds like he's not answering directly a lot of times, but he is. It says you're in your scriptures, kind of pointing something out in your scriptures, connecting them to the word and what they claim. You're called gods, or Elohim's gods there. And now I'm not quoting it right, but basically, and now you have a problem with me calling myself son of Elohim, son of God here. And in your scriptures, you're called gods, but you have a problem with me saying son of God and not God. It's pretty amazing. He's showing their lack of understanding and hypocrisy. They don't have a problem with that first thing, but now Messiah is saying son of Elohim, son of the Father. Now it's a problem when son of does not mean the creator, God. It does not mean it. Because all those that would believe afterwards are called sons. That's a lot of gods in this world. I mean, over time. That's not the truth. But they claim that, which you can't do this attack or claim that without believing Messiah is prideful. It's not possible. It's already believing in the heart that Messiah is prideful, incredibly prideful. So then that's why they're saying basically, you're blasphemer, like claiming you're God, blaspheming. But then all those that walk in the Spirit, these are the sons of Elohim, God, as we read. Those that walk in the Spirit are sons. And they're not all gods, the creator, but these simple understandings and truths, it just mixed up with some Trinity, and it damages and destroys people, because if the lie is the truth, then whatever the truth is not in someone. It's replacing the truth. It's anti-Messiah, replacing, attacking, trying to destroy. Anti, to replace and or be against the true Messiah. And there's nothing with words that can actually prove something all by itself. It has to be given in someone's heart to believe and have confidence and see anything that's true. But even with scriptures, the Father knows and has made it to be so. Even naturally, someone is confounded. If they're teaching a lie, it will contradict with the scriptures, using the scriptures, asking questions to bring out the contradiction. And how come they don't care when it's brought out? And that's, and then all the people, if you've noticed and seen, even looking at self as we've done these things in the past, but learning to hate them now, is there's a connection, because it's worshiping, it's a connection in a bad way, like worshiping man. So then the false prophets and the people, it's like the people under the false prophet, but they're not obeying the scripture there, because it's false. There's a spiritual attachment and worship going on. So they'll defend him to the death, and they'll support him and the false prophet somehow through delusion, and like the enemy just knows something about this. And because he has that army supporting, one measly worthless believer trying to give or correct or show something is stepped on and destroyed. So it seems, that in this world that's going to look like that, and then they disappear because we're not supposed to be doing the same evil that they're happy to do, and you just disappear and like nobody knows of them. It's kind of a sad situation, but then again, it's not sad, it's a good thing. And then there might be another person that's divided against the other false prophet, and then they got their people, and that's one way, the dark way, and then there's the true way, because Messiah had disciples and he's teaching them. Just because that the world's doing the wrong way and that's what exists everywhere doesn't mean there's no good way. And I think that's just something good to remember when there's doubt or someone trying to do trickery. Even if we can't see something, to remember that just because the world's got this way and everyone's agreeing with it and seeing it and that's the only way, there's a good way. It just needs to appear. It just needs to appear. Messiah didn't gather disciples for himself like we read in scripture that the false prophets do. That means gathering them for themselves. Exactly what it means, amazingly, is literally how we read it. He didn't do that for that purpose. But it can be pointed and attacked and claimed that because it looks pretty close on the outside, and you can't prove anything in a court in this world. Oh, they say that, well, that's what's happening. Not caring about righteous judgment or discernment. So there's only two things in Messiah's teaching this too. We can read it. It's powerful and it's a big deal. Someone's either seeking their own glory or they're seeking the Father's glory. And those who seek to do the Father's will, whoever does this for real and whatever this means, will know true doctrine. Just that simple. Because it'll be given. It appears. People say, how do you know? How do you know? It just is. Not much we could do. You can't satisfy an unbeliever with just saying it is true. It won't satisfy them. It's like the best we could do. And he's just saying it plainly. Those who seek to do the Father's will, because Father doesn't allow these games like, I'll do this if you do this for me. None of that nonsense. But to do his will, then we'll get the thing that even might be desired, but it has to be his way. And then those who seek to do his will know true doctrine, true teaching. They'll just know. It's that simple, because it's given for those that seek to do his will. They're asking to, and it'll be given. Those that don't, they're not asking in their heart, and they're not seeking to do his will in the heart for themselves, what his will is, and truth and what to do and what's good, what's evil, and overcoming sin and death. Death, so much connected to death, overcoming even the fear of death, like we read. Well, that takes some growing up. It's not that it's overcome perfectly in one day, but it's still true, overcoming the fear of death. It's like it must be for the Father that the little children just fall asleep. I mean, that I can't see how it is but I could see, we could see at least some kind of truth teaching. It must be something like that. Oh, he fell asleep, I'll wake him back up. And in fact, that's exactly what we read. Lazarus fell asleep, and he's speaking out of truth, out of understanding. And when they hear the words, they don't hear what Messiah is saying. Because he said, oh, if you were here, you could have maybe saved him, but now it's too late. Not so. But he even had this happen so that the Father could show this power, that he can do this. And he says it plainly. This is interesting too, the frustration in the believers that will be true and happen, because it was in Messiah, and everyone following Messiah will start to be, has the mind of Messiah. So if he was frustrated at times, it will be frustration. It's real, because he wants to see something and he can't. This is a very abomination to the carnal man. What do you mean Messiah wanted to see something and he couldn't? Him being God destroys this really important, even precious, if I should say, truth. It's unbelievable what the damage does. And yet we're not throwing him down. It's acknowledging what we read. It's the King of Kings, given all things right under the Father, right to, no one above the Father, but maybe they're not believing in the true Messiah and that he's above all, save the Father, that the Father gave him all things. But since he said Lazarus fell asleep, they're saying, well, if he was asleep, then you could just wake him back up. And he wasn't talking about that, because they couldn't see or believe in this miracle, this power, and this applies to so many different things. Not just about this one thing, but it's what the heart's doing. So they hear something and they're hearing something else, seeing something else. It's like kind of being spiritually drunk. Double visions, not seeing what you need to see, going in the direction of, something bad, not right, not true. And then what, not remembering, because we read in Proverbs, give him the strong drink so he forgets. It's amazing. Someone should go read that section of being drunk, because it's happening so much. It's being fulfilled like every day. But, for whatever it is right for someone, there is no teaching you can't drink at all. Something for me, I just don't at all. For someone else, maybe they have a little every once in a while or whatever, but being wasted is not good. Obviously not. That's all kinds of, because when that happens, it's a judgment and punishment. Then more sins will come out of being drunk, and then you don't even remember. It's not good. But doesn't the world like that? Like, oh, tell me what I did. Tell me what I did. Who hasn't done that? I've done it. I'm wasted before. And now looking at it, I don't like it. Don't want it. It's a miracle, But you could do that with anything, spiritual things, sins, not just like literal. Even though there is a spiritual attachment to drinking, but more spiritual things. I don't want to do that anymore. That's the miracle. That's the point. But never getting prideful as if, I did it and I'll never do it again. You say that in your heart from self. Be careful, because he might just make you do it again for doing that as a lesson. Because that's a heart thing, saying out of pride. But you could say it out of truth. I don't want to do it again. I hate that. Being wasted is an example of sin. If it's the Father's will, out of like a humble spirit, not wanting to do it again. Reality, truth. And maybe he'll keep his word then. Not that he never keeps his word, but then it's a blessing, not a cursing. And so then we could see this frustration if someone could see it, because they said if he was asleep, he'd wake up, and he's it's a simple thing. When he's asleep, in that Father wake him back up. It's actually true. He wasn't lying. He's asleep, but not like their understanding of asleep. The point of this thing is that they're going to hear something that's not right. And it sounds like they think they know, and they're answering out of knowing, and they have no clue. And so he says plainly, Lazarus is dead. I could see this thing. I'm convinced in my own mind how it would have happened, out of a little bit of loud frustration, and just saying, all right, Lazarus is dead. You happy? Something like that. But like saying those words to try to bring out like what's going on inside. And then, of course, he wakes him back up and he wasn't lying. If he can do that, what can't he do? Well, Messiah himself was resurrected. What can't the Father do? Nothing. Nothing. He teaches this. With man, it's impossible. And with the Creator, all things are possible. Don't have to be in confusion. Just ask and seek the Creator with the heart. He will give clarity and understanding on something. Confusion's not good. Just because the world's confused doesn't mean people have to be confused. Just because they're not overcoming lying doesn't mean people don't have to. That doesn't even sound right. That they can't overcome lying. It's exactly what they need to do. Because we read they have overcome the world. You have overcome the world. These are speaking of his people. This is what's for them. This is what they need to do. This is what they will do. Whoever is his people for real, this is what they do. Overcome the world. Because Messiah overcame the world first, and the mark of the beast and everything, which was a revelation just for myself to see that Messiah overcame the world and seeing how it's connected to the mark of the beast and overcoming the world and all the things in it. It was bad back then too. It was bad 500 years ago. It's bad today. It's difficult to do the Father's will, overcoming this world, because it's always pressuring to do sin and evil constantly from every angle, perspective. When people attack, it tempts you to do evil towards them, which is doing evil. That's what we need to overcome. Not hating the enemy. It's a long ways to go. But I know it gets better because that's been the direction. So then there's a very careful understanding and discernment, because someone in Messiah, just the way the Father works, they don't overcome in reality hating enemies in one day. So there needs to be like a careful, without pointing and condemning, like especially another believer. But then there needs to be an understanding and watching out for no care for sin at all. It's a fine line to things, or to walk right down the middle thing. It's really what it is. That's why he says narrow way. We read this directly, to not fall to the left and not fall to the right. Go right down the line. That means something, but the letters don't cut it until the Father gives the meaning, some kind of meaning of this, that there's an actual way in the heart to fall to the left, to the right. It's a real fine line. But with his power, his will, he can do what he started, he could finish. In fact, trying to start finishing it our own is not good. It's like carnality. Because we read, what he started in the spirit, are you going to now complete in the flesh? It's foolishness. Someone starts seeing why that's foolish. It's stupid and impossible. But at the proper time, someone starts seeing why it's stupid and impossible. So then that's not the way. And yet when people see people do things, they see the person doing something, so they can't see the difference between the Father's works and your own works. But I know his people are learning the difference. There is a difference, but it won't be seen by the world. And just because the world doesn't see it doesn't mean that there's not a difference. It's a massive difference. It's the heart actually seeking the Creator's will and things, which is his way, and then he rewards by giving to do his things. And that's his way. Self starts getting into it. Pride starts creeping in. That's the carnal man trying to revive himself, if you will. The beast that needs to be put down. So then revelation is like spiritual truth at all times, the deadly wound. is the belief at first, and then the deadly wound is healed inside those prisons. So then they're tricked into believing that that prophet loves them because they healed them. It's such a massive deception. It hurts to even see it. Even remotely, it hurts. Because you just can't give that to them. They're not going to acknowledge it. They can't see it. They won't believe it. Those that are being deceived out there, that they love the false they act and behave that way and will support them and do all these things, and that person doesn't care about them at all, because we know someone that's lying cannot love the people it's lying to, because we read the lie, those destroyed by the liar hates those destroyed by him, by his lies. The Father's giving us his word on things spiritual, what this means in the heart. This is, if you like, you could see his word as a spiritual fact. There's nothing to debate once it's given. If someone's lying for real, always, whatever we read is always true. When it says liar, that means really lying. Then also what's true is that in the heart, it hates those that it's lying to. It has to be that way. It already is. And someone, I think, I believe they all will appreciate this simple, like confident, no variance, no sway. It's one thing or the other, period. If someone loves money in their heart, they hate the Creator. That simple. We read, you cannot love mammon, money, and the Father. You'll either love the one or despise the other, or hate the one and be fond of the other, and you could flip it around either way. If the money is love, despising the Creator. If the money is fond of, hating the Father. But if money is being hated properly, loving the Father, and if it's being despised, this love of money, then fond of the Father. Then real works of the heart, prove it, test and prove all things. So then there's nothing that, when it's done the right way, can't be tested and proven. It's never a sin to do the right thing with all things, anything. And so then test and prove Messiah reigning forever, or for a time, age abiding, if you will, and reigning until we have contradictions there. It needs to be tested and proven, and they don't do that. They teach the lie in there. How is it that they're doing that if they're okay with, I don't even want to hear what they say about reign until or anything else. Can't even hear it anymore. It's nasty. I know it's going to be nasty. I don't care about the new heavens and earth or good works, overcoming sin. See that, those that are doing this, there's no care. It's just true. When we start seeing this, then it's like, it's unbelievable, because you have to go through the layer of deception constantly to see what's really happening and who someone is. What are they doing, and who are they of? The enemy or the Creator? One of the two. And it's two things, and it's simple. Pretty amazing. But to really see and believe that in the heart, one or the other, who are they? Because there's not going to be people out there, especially in the church world, that's not of the Father or the devil. They're like, I don't know, from outer space or something, like they say, aliens, whatever. It's eternal space, eternal darkness is what they teach. Maybe that's why they teach space, because it's eternal darkness. It's like the perfect backwards thing. I think that's all I have to say on this. It's not so much like the old religious way of debating and doing that. Like, I see this false thing, I can't do that. Just whatever He's given me to see in the heart and spirit, and then use a few scriptures, and then that's it. Not like these long, complicated debates. And through all that, somehow they're allowing a bunch of lies and contradictions. It must not be a good system. The only system, if you will, is from the Father teaching directly. There's no system. He's the teacher of how, whatever it is, how it works, what it means, how to do it. That's the authority himself. The Father is the teacher, and the Messiah is the teacher. Not creating our own system of complicated words and, sort of the religious terminology that have no benefit or value by them. The way they're used, especially, not good, because it's suppressing truth. That's how it's being used. It's finding a way. The enemy's found a way through these words. It's doing a lot of damage by guarding people from even remotely going in this direction or that, or questioning this or questioning that, because they believe that system or this or that, this lie or that lie. It's like they're guarding. Guards, man. They've got the wrong God. It must sound crazy. Adam and Eve are deceived, and the devil, the serpent, is their father. But then they're the example of being forgiven and covered. Mankind is covered. Isn't it saying that what is true about this in Genesis, if someone can see it? All mankind sins because Adam and Eve sinned. All mankind is sold under sin to the enemy. And now some are being bought back for a price. But what Adam and Eve are covered, forgiven. And when they teach that the Father will never, ever forgive, will never, ever correct, never, ever somehow do this thing, then they're saying with the masses and most people that ever live, with no end, zero mercy forever. And that's an amazing thing. That's some serious darkness. Now there's understandings that need to be understood for right now, but this is separate from the Father not having mercy forever, because those that don't forgive aren't forgiven. This has nothing to do with him not forgiving mankind, not forgiving mankind forever. It's true for a believer that if they don't forgive right now someone, they won't be forgiven in that moment. It's very true. So it's for us to forgive, and then we'll be forgiven. But when there's holding back forgiveness, it's going to be darkness, trying to creep in, quenching the spirit. This has nothing to do with not having mercy for all eternity, all most of creation. That contradicts all in all. And somehow they say all in all without most of humanity is not even considered when we read all in all. All in all, yes, all in all, except most people, almost all. But you start going back, and it's like it doesn't even work. It's not even worth to go back and forth carnally like that with them. It's like admonished once or twice, they can't hear it. Go away because they still won't hear it. And if we keep going, whatever the right thing is, and we're doing the wrong thing, it's going to be some real bitter resistance, and it'll be like it'll blow up, and it won't be good for us. It'll be good for them. That's what they want. It's just already naturally wanting war. But for us, it's going to be sin. It won't be good. And Messiah's taught this, teach this thing. Shake the dust off your feet, take the peace back with you, and move on. Because if they keep trying to do something there, it's once again, it's going to be evil on our part then, because of understanding the Father's sovereignty, truth, clarity, consistency. If we did once and twice admonish, because we do it a third time isn't going to change anything. It's not going to break his word. Just because we did it a fourth or sixth, seventh time now, he's going to still show he's true. You'll see that through making that mistake. That's the value of sin, actually. It's strange to say it like that, is that you see something is true by utter proof with the works and seeing that the Father can't mess with him. His word is, whatever it means, it's not being broken. So if someone's actually starting to understand, admonish once or twice, and then they go beyond that, they'll see a brick wall and it won't move, because they're not about to just prove little child, little person, little man, us, anybody, the Creator wrong. Not happening. That's some severe belief in power and sovereignty he has. See, the carnal man does not believe. The liars are God, and like in their mind it's a throne. They don't believe any of this. You're not seeing, though the works can hit them all day long, it's not proof to them. All day long, Messiah is showing. This is what, we're seeing this. They're seeing his works. They're seeing the miracles even. And they still wanted to kill him. Just didn't do anything, did it, for them, those that are of the enemy. And we read in Revelation, plagues come, more plagues come, and they don't repent, and they repented not for their sorcery, their witchcraft. We read that. And their sins, hard like a rock, needs to be dashed to pieces. And Messiah says that Messiah and his people, how is it written in Revelation, will, and the saints will dash the nations to pieces. Wonder what that is. They should know something about it now, because the Father's dashing them to pieces, that stony heart. Now, there's something coming for the rest of the world. They're going to be dashed to pieces, and we know what that leads to. Something very good. But it must be a horribly shameful thing. Who knows what that might be like? But his people should be knowing something about it, because the shame is here and there. The breaking down is here and there. The cutting off is here and there. But so it's like spread out through a believer's life, planned out. It doesn't mean they'll never, that's exactly what needs to happen. Cut off the sin, but there's going to be times of screwing up or shame, or, crouching, getting low, so no one sees you. Better to cut off a little here and there now than to face the judgment all at once. We read it's better, and we read the better resurrection. And the new covenant is the better covenant, because it's the Father's works and not man's works. And the first covenant is keep all the commandments. Trying to simplify it. And it's like a command for man of himself, and he can't do it, what it really means. And the second covenant is the Father's works, giving understanding his works to keep his own things, because man just can't do it. And yet we need to do it. There's no contradiction there. Messiah said, my works, we read, it's not his own, and yet he did good, though. He did it. He did this. But it was the Father's works. There's two things to be seen. And it's real, and just because the world doesn't see it doesn't automatically mean something like it's not true. That was a bad position. Got my neck. The neck is in a bad position. I think that's all I had on this, because I know that's been what's been on my mind before and searching it out. So I know it's like going to be for others, or they already have a certain confidence with something and it's important still. It's just not, how do you say it? It's not shaking them up, because understanding's given. It's almost, it's like it's not bothering them in a negative way. That would be the goal. Destroying people is the negative, evil thing. I believe every believer sort of just goes, like pretty much the same spiritual path, same questions, same struggles. It's going to look the same inside, but not necessarily like outside. If, it could be a different experience, but the same lesson inside was seen. The same unbelief increased. We read, I believe, help my unbelief. Is that a contradiction? Or I remember it only as the King James right now. Help, I believe, help thou my unbelief. We're going to find that all day long in his word. What sounds like contradiction, it's because it's belief, but it's weak. Help my unbelief. It's both are true, and that's a believer. It's not an unbeliever. As an unbeliever, it's a believer that is also saying, help my unbelief. It's just true. It just needs to be seen. And the Father's power is so powerful that if someone has a mustard seed of real faith, it crushes everything else as if it's nothing. Even just a little bit of the real faith moves mountains. Imagine having more, but that's like a teaching right there. Something so small. It grows and it turns into something huge. It is a seed. Something way bigger than itself as a seed. But even just a little bit of real faith with compared to false confidence and all these false things of faith, like mass of faith being projected, just that little seed just trumps all that fake stuff because it's not even real. It's not real faith. So there's like faith and then there's faith. There's two things. It's like projected faith in an image, the fake thing, and then real faith in someone's mind and heart. And that's what can't be destroyed or taken by man just because man wants to do it. He can't do that all of himself and his own power. It's understanding this without pride. It's understanding this without saying to self, I will never sin. No one can mess with me. Not saying it like that. It's just saying it out of man himself. Cannot do anything to touch the Father's things, faith, life. But the enemy wants to. And he sends out a flood to the woman, all his people, spiritual Israel. And the earth helps the woman, swallows the flood from what it was intended to do, destroy. And Messiah's being sought after. Is it by Herod, whoever the leader is, someone with power to kill all the 2-year-olds and under? Already the attacks are coming. Crazy. How does he know? What does he know himself? He's worried about a 2-year-old or 1.5. It's crazy. No, that's the enemy working through him. Why is he actually believing prophecy in a really twisted way? Isn't that crazy? That is a crazy thing. Where it seems like the enemy has more faith in the prophecy than, compared to, it's a weird thing to see. He heard something, sees something about it, but he's worried enough about it maybe being true that better take him out right now, or else he's going to grow up and destroy our kingdoms. If someone can see this from the spirit of the enemy, it's a pretty massive thing. That spirit of the enemy is worried about the kingdoms and all the evil being taken away someday and anything to stop it. And it's been attacking ever since his people. It's always been true, but we believe that one day it's going to be utterly true. It's what he's worried about. But it was true way back then in the natural, though. Then it became a spiritual reality. But so there's two fulfillments, really: natural, spiritual. The natural was fulfilled already, but now with the heart, real things. Spiritual Israel, natural Israel first. Only seeing the commandments with letters only, not what it really means for the heart. And so then the natural, then the spiritual. And the lawlessness is not the lawlessness understood by carnal, but by the Father's understanding, spiritual lawlessness in the heart, real things. Someone's heart's full of hatred, but they smile. This is deception and this is evil. This is hatred in the heart. But looking good is like the carnal man's understanding. If I look good and put an image out, that's good. That's good. I'm a good person. That's why, out of this understanding already, the natural man, apart from the Father, believes he's good just by default. So then they say, good teacher, good person, you're a good person. Messiah stops him and is saying, why do you call me good? Because we're talking about real things. That man believes he's good. Now he's saying Messiah is good out of a false carnal understanding, out of pride, but what he's doing sounds good. And if we were to speak of this, it sounds like we're doing evil, doesn't it? All the time. Messiah sounds like Messiah is doing evil. All he said was a good teacher. What are you getting on him for? Wicked. Who do they think they've been doing this to ever since? They don't know Messiah's people. They don't see him. They make a show for that they're very good and care, and it's actually the exact opposite. And there's nothing more frustrating seeing this over and over and over again, as if it's getting away with it, seems like sometimes. But really, they're not. You start seeing what the wrath, pride, and destruction is, and you know what, that is bad. I don't want that. You start envying it less and less and less. The more he gives the good things, the more you could see the good things, the more you could see that's the bad thing. But coming from the bad thing, you can't see the good thing as much. So the bad thing is good. And it's hard to comprehend, like, is it really worth it? That's why we read the Father saying what his people will say. And this is a big one. What benefit is it to serve the Creator? What benefit will we get out of this? Saying that in the heart today. What good is it? As if it's saying it, questioning as if it's worthless to do this. So that'll be, a temptation, a belief that's coming out of that belief. We know that's what carnal man is doing, though. It doesn't in its heart see any value or benefit. It's stupid. Can't we just get along and have peace? That's what it'll do. But not commended by men, though. It's not what, just that's the man speaking out of no clarity or truth. It's not true. It is a big deal. It is important. And there's rewards now, and there's rewards to come. And the unbeliever has no such hope, even right this minute. He can pretend all day long, but we start seeing that it's not real, and we can contrast to what it was before believing. We didn't have any hope for real. We couldn't see the Father at all or see Messiah at all. No actual hope. The lamp of the wicked is cut off, snuffed out. It's not good. It's nothing to envy there. And they got a day coming anyways. It's going to be revealed, everything that was done. So that needs to be considered too. That they're not getting away with now because he is judging them, and they won't in the future. To be attached to all the evil is something that's fading away. And see, that word doesn't make proper sense unless we start having actual faith in things to come. Then it starts coming together with the world and its ways. The world and its, how do we read it? It's fading away. it is. It's always true every day, and it will. All that darkness, all that evil, it's all fading away. So then what? Then what? You might as well not be attached to it. We'll go down with it, with the house built on sand. Everyone's building something, but it's either being built on sand or the rock. This rock, it doesn't move, it's solid, and it's going to be there forever. The sand is coming down. That house is going down. That's a destruction. That's like a plummeting. That's a shame. A little shameful that the house didn't stand, and a little bit stupid to build it on sand. It is. But I know that darkness doesn't see the stupidity the way it needs to see it. But in reality, for us, we need to see it stupid. It's stupid to build a house on sand. We're right on the very edge of a cliff, and it's like softer. But that's, the point is sand moves, and that's not a proper foundation. It's only building so it can fall. That's pretty. When you start seeing this, this is incredible, because it'll only help not envy that more. But see, the YOLO doesn't believe in anything now in his heart for real or to come. So it's all foolishness, and it speaks out as if it thinks it knows, and it knows nothing. And it's got that devil smirk when it does evil. It's happy that it made you look like a robber today. And then they say you're a robber now because I made you look like one. That's not good. That's blind. I've experienced a lot of this. It's not fun, but necessary anyways. And I marvel when it happens every single time. It's unbelievable every single time. Never gets old. It's amazing because of seeing truth, clarity, whatever he's given me to see, and not want to do these things, watching out. When it's done, it's like crazy. Oh, that nasty pride. That's what that proper hatred is coming in now. That's what the fear of the Creator is, to hate pride, to hate these things properly, and yet still somehow not hate with the carnal hatred the enemy. And yet you can't be one with it. There is a way for this. It sounds contradiction. I know what the letters sound like, saying it with words. It sounds like there is no way to do this. Yes, there is. And it is a miracle, literally, to be able to start doing and seeing that. Whatever someone's saying, well, I don't know. It will get better. They'll see it more clearer, and then you can actually do the works better and with more understanding, and then more want to do it because of the benefit from doing it. Blessings or cursings. He's shown me enough things that grew that I know whatever I'm not seeing as much as I need to, I know I have confidence it will get better, and it's been getting better to see two things and how both are done without contradicting with our heart, with works. What's impossible with man is possible with the Creator. Just everything religion does has put a false carnal definition to literally every word in his word. It's like unlearning that constantly and then learning the new real things and what it really means. Then you can start seeing when someone's quoting scripture that's not of him or whatever's going on. You can see and you understand their understanding, because that's where you came from and why it's being done and this and that. And you see they don't understand. And then it's a desperate situation to want them to understand and believe. But you can't just snap your fingers and I'm God. I choose though, it's the Father's works in the end. Keep doing it. So this is he's creating a heart where you want to help even though you know they're not seeing, not waiting for someone to be righteous or do good to us. It doesn't happen. You do good to them. You don't wait for it. Wait for a bum not to lie, not to do evil. Give me a break. We'll never help anyone then. We'll be waiting forever. And until it clicks, we'll be in Gehenna forever. So it's like it's a shattering of man's ways constantly. It's breaking through. It's like a war. And eventually the Father, through Messiah and us, being conquering this war. And who was it that said there's a looking forward to a new heavens and new earth where righteousness dwells? Wasn't it years later by the time this was written, many years after at least, Messiah's death and resurrection? And he's looking forward to a new, almost as if it wasn't there yet. And you could go on and on, on and on. There's untold amount of things that going back to the lie and contradictions and evil of the end has already happened in completion. But in a way it has, and they can't see the two things. So therefore, if someone is missing whatever is the true good thing in their heart, and pretend you don't see it at all, it doesn't exist, then when someone offers something that kind of sounds a little right, boom. What is that? Hook, bait hook, whatever, and then they're caught and they believe it. And then it's just as easy for someone else to believe something a little different than that, but they still not seeing the whatever the true thing is caught over here. And then these two fight each other and say, but when it's going back and forth, debating, fighting like this, both are speaking out of not seeing that. How do you tell someone that? It's going to sound incredibly prideful in this world. What do you know? What do you know everything? Are you God? Yes, these things have been said. And it's frustrating when it happens because that's not even remotely the intention. But it can't be believed. And then they don't see that they're talking about themselves too. They're not overcoming the very thing they accused themselves yet. So the Father has made this way of whoever does sin and evil and attacks, it's like they're already, boom, hypocrite, fully that self, still not overcome themselves. And he's going to prove it to his people. If we do some wrong thing, check self. Has it overcome this thing? Have we done it? Are we doing it? We slip up and actually do the very thing pointed the finger for, Constant humbling. But maybe if you spend 70 years being a monk, that's the answer, right? And there's just so many, ways, and it's all like one wide gate. So many different things, and people will get hooked. And then this is what it is. But then they're in destruction in reality without Messiah. Except it's all dumb. Then they're doing the same sins in the heart as the other person that has something else that's different than being a monk. The works are proving. The only thing that can prove it, the works of the heart, for real. And the crazy thing is these very works is what the world cannot understand or see. It's no proof to them. If they even remotely understood this, what they're doing with the gospel as their gospel and expecting the world, pointing, condemning, expecting it to believe that the gift has been given to all, converting everyone. It's going to sound like, well, we don't care about, not saying that at all. Nothing to do with that. But the way they're working is not based on that understanding of the world cannot see the Father's good works at all. So then whatever it does to replace that scripture or this scripture is going to be a lie, no matter what, because there's only whatever the true thing is. If that's not seen, whatever its definition and understanding of this or that scripture is going to be some kind of lie. And then the works will be lies and no good. And this is why Messiah says something extraordinarily offensive over and over again, though. You travel land and sea. Man, is this prophecy scary accurate to make one convert. But when he's converted, that's not a lie, they're converted. You make him twice the son of judgment, Gehenna, as yourselves. You just converted him to double judgment as yourself. Definitely not a good thing if it's twice the son of Gehenna, as self, the one that converted. What does this mean in reality? There's a reality converting people into judgment, into destruction of the enemy of carnality, and not anything to do with truth. That's extraordinarily offensive. No wonder they want to kill his people. No wonder they killed him. And this just doesn't exist. I grew up in the church world from the beginning, from youth. And looking back, I can see that there's no understanding of why he even was sought after to be killed. Not really. No, not the real thing, not the real understanding. And then at least for me in this denomination, they just stayed away from those scriptures anyway, so many of them, that has to do with the Pharisees and Messiah speaking to them and these things. I know that it's not like this everywhere, but in the one I grew up in, they just stayed away from Revelation itself and never read from it on purpose, never, that I could remember. Because in this group, there was some kind of must have been a little bit of an agreement, we don't really know all things, so they just never read it. Now, it's not about reading it, just that, my goodness. Now, just because someone's going through it, I'm just saying this was for what I saw growing up. The revelation and unveiling of Messiah in us, and we won't have anything to do with that. But then you've got plenty of them bringing it up, speaking of things, prophecy, and then it's still no good either when it's all a lie. So it's like both things are not right. One doesn't prove the other by itself. This is the unveiling of seeing what we need to see, Messiah in us and all the Father's word over time growing and being unveiled. This war, as Revelation is, a war. It's a war for individually, it's a war amongst nations and peoples, and it is some kind of prophecy too of the end. But this end spiritually is always happening. And this is the important thing, to see the spiritual things. And nations have fell many times, over and over again, their end has come. But I fully believe and am convinced this last end will be the grandest end and the greatest end. Once and for all, it's like, poof, it's over. And the Creator takes over the reign through Messiah. Somehow, some way, however I'm just saying as in a belief and understanding. And the nations raged. Why do the nations rage? Because they don't want to be taken. It's still stubborn and childish and prideful. And their kingdoms don't. It's that spirit in there to remember that whoever's of the enemy, it's already that spirit of, I don't want my kingdoms. He's attached to the God of this world, and what the God of this world has something in is it's his world, his kingdoms, his way. All of this evil is in the people already if they're of the enemy. Doesn't want it taken away. They're attached emotionally, spiritually, specifically to the world. That's why I love not the world and the things in it, because it's all out of evil. This doesn't mean the world as in the creation, like now I'm going to go and punch trees. I'm doing this for God. I'm going to kick the dirt, hate his creation. Nothing to do with that. Just the enemy's world, the systems, the religions, the ways and beliefs and lies, trickery, the sin, all of this world. To love that is to love evil. To love self is to love evil. In the right understanding of loving self. When it's understood what this exactly is, loving the carnal man, to love death, love evil. But that won't ever be agreed on with I love myself, fond of myself. That's the heart already. And his people, it's backward. It's going the other direction. Not fond of self, not loving self to the death, like we read. Not loving carnality and the old man, but wanting it to go away and die. It's a spiritual thing to see those that love save their souls. Holding on to saving shall be destroying it. So to love self is like, in this proper understanding way, is to be holding on to death and destruction and loving it. Someone will just say, that's crazy. I don't love death and destruction. But all their works, the only thing we're really, the very real things, is proving that. Doesn't matter. It's the Father's judgments are so strong that someone's going in a crazy direction and all have been lost at first, but nevertheless. Therefore, it's wanting that because it's doing things to lead to it, that for judgment, punishment, destruction. Doing works that are constantly proving that, man can't stop. Seeing everything incredibly different constantly. Not seeing out of choice and like freedom and choice, like the world's free. It's trying to hide that there's a creator and that they're in punishment, man, that rebellion. Free. It's trying to project the image of the beast. It's not free. People are stuck in slavery. They become a slave to sin. They can't stop. That's the reality. It's a scary truth. They can't stop being a porn star, man. They can't stop. And they didn't really choose it of their own free will either. That's just where they were led to from sin and, nasty thing. But any other sin is the same thing, like this understanding. It's judgments. They can't stop. Isn't the devil pour out his folly here? Can't stop, won't stop. Yes, it does, constantly. So they can sing along to those words, but when we talk about it with seriousness and out of his spirit and truth and belief on these things, all of a sudden it doesn't believe can't stop, won't stop. It believes the opposite, that it's free, powerful. That's the nasty image of the beast, always projecting to hide what it really is, but that's what it really is, though. So then it's always making it look like the creator is a liar at all times. This is the enemy's works. Projecting an image which is not real. That the creator's a liar all the time about everything, most things, most of the time. And people, when they speak out of this religious, carnal thing, like, homosexuality. People say this when they're speaking about certain things, anything really, but when they say, that's not right, I support them, and this is all, I can't put it into words, it's all messed up and fake. Now, I'm not saying there's no truth, like, yeah, they don't care about the sin, that is true, but it's saying that just to look good, man, just to go along. Least amount of tribulation, it's slavery, has to do that. But for his people, it's not out of condemnation, like they try to make it sound like. Oh, if you say anything about homosexuality, wicked, condemner. See, they're protecting homosexuality by doing that, or any other sin. That's how they're protecting it. They do this with, it's a nasty thing. It's being done with all kinds of things everywhere. Protect some evil, real, dark, big, powerful group. If you say anything about them at all, you're anti-Semite. It's just like the same tactic. I wonder why it's being protected so badly by the devil and all the kings of the world, because they must be a pretty powerful group, along with many others, and who knows what's going on in the dark, deep pit for everything. But they have a power, and the devil sort of protects its own, but in a wicked way, where it's a strange thing. There's no love. The devil could kill a devil at any moment, in a moment's notice. They don't care about each other. They show this in the movies all the time. But there is some kind of weird agreement in the devil's system. If you say something, you'll be murdered. If it's a big thing that they swore with blood and cut themselves with, it's real. And it's going to sound crazy, but it's real. The devil will come after his own that break it, and it kills and slaughters his own, casting out demons by the power of demons. This is what Messiah was saying, exposing their crazy hypocrisy, claiming that by the power of the Father, casting out foul spirits, that he was doing it by the power of demons. So he's saying, here's what happens with you, what you guys believe and say. And it's incredibly dumb, though. Satan cast out, foul spirits by the power of demons. He casts himself out, and his kingdom can't stand. And that's it. Really, it is what it is. That is the truth. But when they're attacking, they can't see that. They just need to attack Messiah. They can't see that it's a horribly stupid, contradicting, full of hypocrisy. And he's answering once again truth out of truth and directly, and showing this stupid hypocrisy. That this is. I mean, I've had laughs at this at times when the moment's right. At Satan casting out devils by the power of devils. It's pretty bad. The Father literally has made the wisdom of this world foolishness. And so I even see the enemy as something that's changed over time to, closer to whatever the true thing is. Cowardly spirit, fearful, hating everyone, hating his own. And they do things in blood because the Father says not to do this. And don't swear now. Don't do this nasty sorcery. Cut yourself. Make oath pacts with blood. It's going to do the backwards and nasty thing. And I'm not saying every person's literally doing this, but just speaking of some of the more rank stuff, but spiritually, the sins, but even like more rank, with where there's more power, who knows what they do. Don't even want to know, but they can't stop showing themselves for what they do because the Father doesn't allow. If it's sin, it's foolish, and it pours out its folly. So, it's not a joke what they've shown in the movies, how these people work and have people do things for them. They don't care if 20 people die, as long as it was in the chair there hiding somewhere and having, he doesn't care about his servants, if you will, his people. And then these big shots, there's enmity between them because it's all being punished, but at times it kind of looks like it's okay, but it could blow up at any minute. And even when it's okay, it's not okay. It's not love. And see, so then out of this spirit, it's forget this way, forget the wide gate, forget it completely. There's always this fear of being robbed inside and, protecting your things because there's no belief in the Creator, and because of sin, that is the punishment to receive, is always worried and on the lookout. And the richer someone gets, the more stingy and worried they are about their things.
because they should expect to be attacked and robbed for how many people they robbed to get what they have. The sin speaking of the heart, but even literally this happens. An amazing thing. The unveiling of things, his word, truth, seeing it more and more the way we should see it. Father's truth. This is not good, but it projects like it's a nice thing. Cars, boats, mansions, and go big, huge. It is so true that the more someone loves money then increases in this, they need even more because they're going backwards from content unto destruction. It's going more and more and worse and worse. What is the reality of the true way? When it's content, he can take away and you become more content. This is a very good thing. It's incredibly good. Who would ever believe it? With how the world runs, they wouldn't believe it. So there's this saying out there that money doesn't buy happiness, and it is true words. But who believes it? Who doesn't love money that's saying that and believes that and isn't seeking more and more and more and more and more and more and not putting it just on the Father's will? He takes away, he takes away. He gives, he gives. It's him. Never too much, too little. His definition of that, not man going, okay, I'm God today. 10 million is too much. If I have a little under 10 million, I'm good. It's not about the numbers. It's not about getting into someone else's business or anything. It's sin in the heart. You just create, it's so crazy. So if someone has more and they're in more sin, they just raise the bar so that they put themselves under it. I mean, this is happening all the time. It's incredible how often it happens in someone's mind and heart. We'll be tempted to do this, making things up, doing this, but this is the very thing that we overcome and stop doing. But see, when someone's questioning out of, how do I know? How do you know? It's, that might be the most difficult situation to try because you want to desperately give them what you just know when you know. That's how it is. But they're not seeing that. They've never been given, never seen this. Then they're questioning and they just can't see it. That you'll just know when you know about whatever it is. And then you need to know more about it, and then when that comes, you know more. There's no exceptions with the Father's truth on man's sin. If someone loves money, they can never be content in their heart. Watch the people claim it, though, and try to make him look like a liar. When they see actual contentness in the heart and spirit, seeing the good works, someone can see someone nailing a nail with a hammer. They see the works, but they'll be in disbelief, don't know, are not understanding it, in disbelief, not wanting it, but they will see it though, because we read, let your light so shine, and the good works.